Hey everybody, Mike here from metaldetectoruniverse.com, and today we're going to answer the question, how does a metal detector work? It's all about transmitting and receiving. Actually, a metal detector works by transmitting a signal into the ground. When you pass that detector coil over a magnetic target, it receives a return signal, and then the electronics in the metal detector can interpret that as a target. And it's presented to the user via the control box. In that little picture there, you see the coil on the ground emitting a signal, and there's a shaft, and up by your arm is the control box with the electronics in it. The signal that the control box gives you will either be a visual display or an audible tone, or both. There's three basic parts to a metal detector, and you can see those down in the diagram there. On the right side is the coil, and that's responsible for detecting the targets. The control box in the middle has the electronics, the interpretive circuitry, and it also has a jack for a headphone, which is useful to keep the noise to yourself when you're at beaches or crowded places. It also helps you discern the signals a little bit better than if you were listening to them through a speaker. And the shaft itself adjusts for proper distance between the operator and the ground. That little handy shape on the end on the left side, that's an armrest. It's sort of an elbow rest. It helps you keep your arm from getting really tired, and you'll see them on most all metal detectors now. There's some differences in the coils. There's different kind of coils used on different models and different purposes. It has a transmit and a receive loop of wire, and that's where you have your detector sensing metal in the ground, and it allows the control box electronics to distinguish between different types of metals, different targets. There's two technologies that you'll see on metal detectors. The most frequent one most people have are very low frequency or VLF detectors, and they have a transmitter loop in the coil to send signals into the ground, and the electronics in the box compares them to those return signals, and they produce an alert to the operator. Pulse induction metal detectors, or PI, sends very rapid signal pulses into the ground, and it measures the time difference between an expected return pulse and the actual return pulse. Now, pulse induction metal detectors are more expensive, and they're for deeper penetration, sometimes used in water. The main difference is they're going to be more expensive as you're just beginning in metal detecting. That's pretty much what you need to know about it. Operating frequency. You may hear somebody talk about that term, operating frequency. So what is that about? Well, your detector's transmit coil sends alternating electric current into the ground, and the operating frequency represents the number of times the direction of that current is changing per a unit of time. Modern metal detectors send out between 5,000 and 25,000 waves per second, and that's referred to an operating frequency of between 5 and 25 kilohertz. A lot of people always want to know, how deep can the metal detector go into the ground? Well, the good rule of thumb is about as deep as the coil diameter. There's a lot of factors, though. Things like the target size is going to make a difference, the shape of the target, the orientation. If you imagine a coin that's flat versus a coin on edge, that's going to present a bigger or smaller target to the detector, depending on how it's oriented. The conductivity and the amount of material in it, the soil type. If you've got heavily mineralized soil, it can tend to mask out the targets. So in general, 4 to maybe 18 inches, and some of the high-cost deep metal detector can hit up to 65 inches. There's some good news, though, in the 4 to 18 inches part, because those shallower depths, that's usually the limit of where things that have been lost within the past 100 years or two are going to be found. So there's plenty out there to find, but that's a good rule of thumb on target depth. In summary, welcome to a great hobby if you're just starting out. Remember that metal detectors combine a transmitter and a receiver. There's two technologies you're going to hear about, VLF and PI. You might hear the term operating frequency. Thing is, get one, go out there, have fun, play with it, learn what it's telling you. I've got a link in the description below to a full practical guide on metal detecting. Welcome you to look at that. Also encourage you to leave some comments below. I love to read those. I learn from you folks, and I hope you've learned something from me today. So until next time, happy hunting.